Very beginning of our service today, we heard Christmas Time is Here from Vince Guaraldi. Christmas time is here, happiness and cheer, fun for all, that children call that favorite time of year. This Vince Guaraldi tune is such a gift. Appearing in the Charlie Brown Christmas special, the piano comes in so poignantly. It got your attention this morning, didn't it? It was almost instantly quiet when you started to play. It's really a beautiful line. In the show, you may recall, those of you who have seen it, the camera pans across a snowy animated scene of a frozen lake. And as the children's voices come in, we see them ice skating. As the second verse comes in, snowflakes in the air, carols everywhere, olden times and ancient rhymes of love and dreams to share, we see Charlie Brown and Linus walking out of the house through the falling snow, and they get to a brick wall. Charlie Brown stops and leans on the top of the wall. Linus pulls up next to him, thumb in his mouth, blanket snuggled up to his cheek, eyes closed. And the piano continues in the background, and Charlie Brown says, "There must be something wrong with me, Linus. Christmas is coming, but I'm not happy. I don't feel the way I'm supposed to feel." Linus opens his eyes and briefly looks at his friend, and then they walk away from the wall and carry on. And Charlie continues, "I just don't understand Christmas, I guess. I like getting presents and sending Christmas cards and decorating the trees and all that, but I'm not happy. I always end up feeling depressed." Now, I'd like to say that Linus paused and offered some compassion to his friend, asked if there was something that Linus might be able to offer Charlie Brown in the way of comfort, like sitting with some hot chocolate, quietly watching the snow fall, or taking a walk with Snoopy the dog, or playing catch the snowflake on your tongue, or some empathy. "I feel that way too sometimes, Charlie Brown." And then carry on with their day as kids might do. Unfortunately, Linus, though, instead kind of mocks his friend, and then concludes by saying maybe his sister Lucy is right, and says, "Of all the Charlie Browns in the world, you're the Charlie Browniest." 1965. I loved this holiday special as a kid. Viewing it now, I wonder what Charles Schulz's relationship was to the winter holidays. In this special, he created a kid who names depression, and then an interaction in which Linus judges his friend rather than be his friend, is his friend. Was it the TV producer trying to make it more palatable with the laugh line instead of saying too serious? Was it 1960s masculinity with Linus trying to distance himself from the vulnerability that Charlie Brown just modeled? Or maybe it was that the media was only just beginning to address adult mental health publicly and hadn't even yet considered that kids might struggle too? I don't know. But what I do know is that Charlie Brown is not the only person to experience depression or anxiety or numbness or self-doubt at the holiday season. Charlie Brown might be depressed. He is certainly confused by what he perceives he is supposed to be feeling and what he is actually feeling. Sometimes we use the word depressed, and what we really mean is sadness or the blues, or that we're kind of numbed out. We might have feelings of despair or despondence, or we may be feeling dispirited. If you are feeling out of sorts this December, please, please, please be gentle with yourselves. Be gentle with yourselves. There are at least 14 million reasons to be sad or upset or afraid, disquieted, discouraged, or disconsolate right now. Reflecting on holidays past may bring some melancholy. Some of us might have preemptive disappointment if the plans you hoped would come to pass now won't or can't. There is a difference, though, between feeling sad and having depression. Sadness as a feeling, it can last for a short time or a long time. There might be other feelings that go with it. Depression, when referring to a diagnosis, is described as debilitating sadness or debilitating hopelessness or irritability and or apathy, lasting longer than 2 weeks. It impacts how we think, feel, and handle daily life. And there are different types of depression, and they manifest differently in different people. And unfortunately, the nature of depression can make it very hard to seek help, and it can increase feelings of isolation and even shame. Yet the more we talk about the more we talk about these feelings, this depression and other diagnoses, the stigma can begin to weaken. And when stigma lessens, so can shame. Because there is nothing to be ashamed about for having mental health challenges, depression, or any others. Psychotherapy and other forms of therapeutic interventions, including physical activity, arts therapies, spiritual practices, and medication, can be really helpful for so many. A friend of ours refers to their treatment plan as better living through chemistry. Depression is very common, and yet we still don't really talk about it very much. Many of us struggle in the winter, especially as the days can be so gray. Some of us right in this circle and in this Zoom room have seasonal affective disorder. Some in this circle and in this Zoom room have depression or some other struggle with mental well-being. Some here in this circle and in this Zoom room have post-traumatic stress disorder. Others in this circle have experienced loss and deep, deep grief. And we may wonder if joy will ever show again. I know in my bones, in my heart, that it can be hard to believe that things will get better. And religious community only works if we actually reach out to one another when times are tough, not just when things are easy. When we allow other people to help provide care, it is a gift. When we honor our feelings, it is a gift. If you are noticing someone in your life who may be experiencing depression, reach out. Affirm that you care about them, that you'll be there for them as they figure out how best to treat their depression. It can make a huge difference to offer something specific. It can be really helpful. And now this might feel a little bit awkward because usually we say things like, let me know if you need anything, which is often an honest offer. But sometimes if we can't quite figure out what it is that we need, it can be helpful when someone offers something specific. But it can still feel awkward. And maybe that's why Linus didn't offer Charlie Brown more compassion. Linus didn't know what to say, maybe. But you, for yourself or another, might offer to play catch the snowflake on the tongue, or take a dog or kids for a walk. Or you might say something like, I know depression is also accompanied by fatigue for you. Can I pick some things up at the grocery store? Or, I know it can be hard to leave the house sometimes, and you have said that your therapist is really helpful. Can I give you a ride to your next appointment? Now, you might get no response at all, or a no thanks, or an okay, but then they change their mind when the time comes. All of that can be related to depression, so don't take it personally. Offer again in a few days or a week, or maybe offer to do something else if that feels more right. And if you yourself are dealing with depression or prolonged sadness, it can be hard to reach out, but if you can, do reach out. Let others know so that we can offer you the care that you deserve, the love that you deserve, because you so very much deserve it. There are many places you can learn more about depression if you or a loved one is displaying prolonged sadness or hopelessness or apathy. And as it becomes less and less stigmatized to talk about mental illness, there are more and more resources. These are just a few. You're welcome to take a photo of this slide and check out these resources on your own or for someone else. We'll also put them in this week's circuits for you. This past couple of weeks have held some deep grief for me, and I know for some of you. Tender losses. And this time of year always brings a mixture of emotion for me as well. Past losses. But one thing I know is that sometimes my grief is my own, what I am actually experiencing or experiencing because I'm remembering. And sometimes in my line of work, but also simply by being human, that I bear witness to others who are grieving, who are suffering. And at times I'm aware that I carry some of it with them. May we be a community that helps carry the hard stuff so that no one has to carry it alone. There are so many things that cause us great suffering, and they don't go away just because it's Advent or Bodhi Day or Las Posadas or Hanukkah or Solstice or Christmas or Kwanzaa. Charlie Brown offered the gift of sharing his feelings. He goes to see Lucy later in the show at the psychiatrist's 5-cent stand. A goofy scene ensues, and he concludes by saying, "My trouble is Christmas. I just don't understand it. Instead of feeling happy, I feel sort of let down." The next several minutes are filled with rather subtle, yet still quite pointed commentary, if you listen carefully. Lucy invites Charlie Brown to direct the school play. The one character of color, a huge deal when Charles Schulz created Sherman, by the way, is assigned the shepherd. "I always end up playing the shepherd," he says. There are disparaging remarks about the character Pigpen, and also about naturally curly hair with all the tone of entitlement, punctuated by Snoopy the dog shenanigans, and sibling bickering about Linus's blanket. The directing on Charlie Brown's part does not go very well, you may recall. Lucy offers to take over, big surprise, and tells Charlie Brown, "Go get us a tree. Make it a big aluminum one. Make sure it's pink." Oy. Linus and he go to the tree lot where he picks a small tree sapling. It looks a little bit like this one here, courtesy of Hewitt's. And he brings it back. And he is ridiculed when he shows it to the cast. And it's excruciating to watch these days to me. I don't remember how I experienced that scene as a kid, but as a teen, I knew about being picked on, and the kids say awful things to Charlie Brown. "Rats," he says. "I guess I really don't know what Christmas is all about." "Isn't there anyone who knows what Christmas is all about?" And then we see a different side of Linus, who speaks King James scripture about the birth of Jesus. "Lights, please," he says. "And the angel said unto them, Fear not, for behold, I bring you tidings of great joy." This is a spoiler alert. Charlie Brown finds some solace in those words, and he walks out of that toxic environment where no one stood up for him, and he takes his tree home. There's some excitement, but there's also more angst on the way. He puts the tree down, he puts that red Christmas ball on the tree, and it bends harshly, and he goes inside fully discouraged. The last scene has all the kids from the play approaching the tree. Linus wraps his blanket around the base of the little tree as he says, "I never thought it was such a bad little tree. It's not bad at all, really. Maybe it just needs a little love." Now, we honor a lot of different theologies in Unitarian Universalism, and all of them include care and love for one another. So if you are a person who believes in Allah or Yahweh or Goddess or God, God is present even in your darkest hours. If you are a person who dances and sometimes stumbles in the mystery, mystery is swirling around you with healing energy. If you are a person who finds peace in the holy, the sacred, or any other name, the holy is surrounding you with peace. If you find meaning in the lessons of the human experience, let humans be present to you and with you. If the Buddha centers your life, the Buddha offers infinite compassion to you. If you connect with the ancestors, this cloud of witnesses offers you encouragement to dare to be yourself. And if you don't know what you believe or some combination thereof, perhaps you will find a sense of hope in these words from Rebecca Parker, inspired by our Universalist heritage. There is a love holding me, holding you, holding us. There is a love holding all that we love. There is a love holding all. We rest in this love.
The holidays are always a bit of a roller coaster for me. First of all, time itself seems to go wild. September, which already seems years ago, pulled us out of the lazy summer haze. Then soon we're out picking apples on a crisp October Saturday. And the next thing you know, pumpkin pie, too much turkey, football. You wake up what seems like the next day and it's already December. I'm behind already. Counting weekends, when to get the tree, when to put up lights, when to shop. I become edgy, snappy, and brittle. Will I get it all done? Do I have everyone's wish list? What about mine? Excitement, anxiety, expectation, doubt. A stew of feelings. I am happy, yes, and unsettled, yes. The pattern repeats each year, and yes, catches me by surprise each year. But with recognition, delayed as it might be, comes some relief. Calm down, I tell myself. It will all work out. And mostly it does. And the Christmas morning photos capture genuine smiles. And even quicker than it came, December is gone. I find myself gently pulling decorations from the shedding tree. A soft sadness washes over me. So many expectations, so much effort. Shouldn't it all have lasted a bit longer? I take some comfort from the sadness, recognizing how it has mixed with gratitude, like ending a visit with a close friend who lives far away.
So many feelings. And how very quickly the time passes. The hustle and bustle of the holidays, the commercialization, the hyper focus on buying gifts, the social gatherings, the performances, and all the expectations, those spoken, those assumed, and those unknown until they appear. And so much has changed over the last couple of years. So I offer a gentle invitation to consider what you really need this year. So many of us are in a rush to get back to normal or back to how things were, but for many, it wasn't always all that it was cracked up to be. There was sometimes a lot of stress, family drama. It was hectic and often a headlong tumble, and suddenly you were putting the menorah away or taking down the decorations, and you wonder where the month went. What do you and what does your family need to thrive this year? We invite you to consider what it would be that would bring you joy. Some of you may know of Marie Kondo, the Japanese organizing consultant. In helping her clients declutter their homes, she asks, "Does this spark joy?" And she says, if it doesn't, then give it away or get rid of it. Now, she is talking about possessions, and it's a pretty cool system if you haven't yet discovered it. Show on Netflix and other places. She's talking about possessions. And I'm pretty sure it can work on habits as well as expectations, too. Does this spark joy? And if it doesn't, to let it go or give it away. When Lynn and I celebrated our first winter holidays together, we were bringing different histories, different habits, and different expectations. And rather than assuming what our traditions would be, we talked a bit about them. What might we do? And when? And with whom? We were in seminary at the time. For years, Lynn and our daughter Megan had a small, about this size, Japanese maple that was bonsai'd in a pot, a tree that was her mom's. It was their solstice tree that was decorated in white lights and other signs of the solstice. When Lynn, Megan, and I moved in together, it became part of my holiday traditions as well. For many years, I had been part of planning a very large winter solstice celebration at my home congregation in San Diego. That included the children's choir that I directed, a drumming which I sometimes led, a beautiful script of going into the darkness, and so many wonderful connections with beloveds there. So having this small living tree that lived outside most of the year and came inside for December, having dropped its leaves, was precious. When we were preparing to move here in the summer of 2017, it became clear we would not be able to bring this beloved tree with us. It simply wouldn't survive the trip in the moving pods. It would be one of the many things we had to leave behind. Thankfully, it lives in Lynn's sister's yard in San Jose, and we visited it the last time we were in there. This year, we chose risking joy for our December theme. Now, some of you tend towards the joyful. There's a pep in your step. You have a sense of optimism generally. Happy Hanukkah and Merry Christmas are right up your alley. I'm that way sometimes too. Maybe some of you are sometimes that way and not so much other times. Maybe you're that way all the time. But I'm reminded of the Pixar film Inside Out. If you remember that, out some time ago. Much of the film takes place from the perspective of the emotions of the three main human characters, the child and two parents. There is Joy, who is bubbly and overly responsible, thinking that her job is to make sure Riley the kid is happy all the time. The other feelings, disgust, fear, anger, and sadness, have their parts to play, though. The film does a great job of showing why there are times when we need our other emotions. Our lives are better, even if at times it might not feel like it, when we recognize the gifts of feelings. All of them. I know that at times it feels risky to let joy enter, especially because I have known loss. And I might imagine that some of you have also felt it to be risky to let joy come in, because you too have known loss. We need all of the feelings. We can't have just joy without sadness. We can't have one without the other. The poet Khalil Gibran reminds us that your joy is your sorrow unmasked. And the self-same well from which your laughter rises was oftentimes filled with your tears. And how else can it be? The deeper that sorrow carves into your being, the more joy you can contain. So this December, give yourself a chance to ask yourself what you are needing, and permission to feel whatever you are feeling, even if it changes seemingly moment to moment. And maybe each of us, all of us, can give one another the space and the grace to be present to whatever arises in us. And maybe, just maybe, rather than having expectations and assumptions among one another, that we focus more on needs, that which will heal what is broken, or will spark joy in another's heart, or inspire you to risk love, to risk honesty, to risk justice, and to risk joy. May it be so. Amen, and blessed be.